Good morning. It is 9:15-ish in Central Time, and my name is Tracy Brown. I want to welcome you to this week's Science of Mind class right here at CSLDallas. Every Sunday we come together and we open the Science of Mind textbook written by Ernest Holmes, and we read a little bit and talk a little bit. We think a little bit and question a little bit. We just dive into exactly what Ernest Holmes wrote and what does it mean and how do we apply it in our lives. So take a deep breath. Let out everything that has happened before this very moment and become fully present right here, right now. Today we are going to start on page 164 in the section titled The Way of Treatment. Now this is in chapter 11. And this entire chapter is about mental and spiritual treatment. And it's a perfect chapter for us to be in right now, because this month at CSL Dallas, we are all about the experience of spiritual practice. And spiritual mind treatment is one of our primary foundational practices. So let's dive in. Page 164, if you're following along, and there's no need to, just listen and take it in. The way of treatment. In treatment, we turn entirely away from the condition because as long as we look at the condition, we cannot overcome it. By thinking upon a condition, we tend to animate it with the life of our thought, and thereby it's perpetuated and magnified. Treatment is the science of inducing within mind concepts, acceptances, and realizations of peace, of poise, of power, of plenty, of health, happiness, and success, or whatever the particular need may be. Breathe. I want you to breathe because there's so much in that paragraph. We've already been talking about treatment and what it is and what the purpose is. And right before this section, Ernest Holmes wrote, treatment should incorporate a conscious recognition that health has always been ours, abundance has always been ours, happiness and peace have always been ours. And when we talked about that last week, it was that reminding that the truth is that everything is good, that everything's been created to be good. And if something is happening in a condition that's not good, it must be a building block to lead to good. So when we have this conscious recognition that good already exists, then the way of treatment, the way we do treatment, the way we approach treatment is what we're getting into now. And I'm going to read that first paragraph again before going on to the next one, because even just we could take the first sentence of this section and talk about it for a month. So, first paragraph under the way of treatment, middle of page 164, take it in again, and this time be thinking about, oh, do I do that? The way of treatment. In treatment, we turn entirely away from the condition because as long as we look at the condition, we cannot overcome it. By thinking upon a condition, we tend to animate it with the life of our thought, and thereby it's perpetuated and magnified. Treatment, on the other hand, is the science of inducing within mind the concepts, acceptance, and realization of peace, poise, power, and plenty. The acceptance and realization of health, happiness, and success. The acceptance and realization of whatever the particular need may be. Treatment is not willing things to happen. Treatment is to provide within ourselves an avenue through which these things may happen. Treatment opens up the avenues of thought, expands the consciousness, and lets reality through. Treatment clarifies the mentality, removes the obstruction of our human thought, and lets in the capital L light. Treatment removes doubt and fear in the realization of the presence of spirit, and is necessary while we are confronted by obstructions and obstacles. We already live in a perfect universe, but it needs to be seen mentally before it can become a part of our experience. Every problem is primarily mental, and the answer to all problems will be found in spiritual realization, period. So, those two paragraphs really get us into what is the way of treatment, what are we doing when we are doing spiritual mind treatment, what's going on, what is our come from place, and what kind of is the foundation behind it that makes it work. And that first sentence, in treatment we turn entirely away from the condition. Yeah. It's one of the most challenging things to do, because the condition, or whatever the circumstances are, we are physically or emotionally experiencing it. And so it's not easy to say, turn away from what we know as fact, the human fact, turn away from the fact that you have no money coming in and you don't know how you're going to pay your bills this month. You know, it's hard to say, turn away from the experience of how it feels, how your body feels, or how anything feels in terms of circumstances you're dealing with. If you were in a bad car accident and you're faced with dealing with insurance and doctors and maybe even attorneys, depending on what happened, right? And Tracy says, Ernest Holmes says, turn entirely away from the condition. It's hard. And what I love about this sentence, turn away from the condition, is I think when I first read it and was first exposed, I think I interpreted it as ignore the condition. But for me to consciously turn away from it, I first have to acknowledge it like, oh, this happened, but it's not the absolute truth. And now I'm going to look toward the truth and look for it to come, right? And so turn away from the condition really simply means don't let the condition define how you feel about it or what you do next. Turn away from the condition means do not give the condition power, even though you're not going to do spiritual bypass and pretend it's not happening. So turn away from the condition is important for what Ernest Holmes says in the rest of that first sentence. Turn entirely away from the condition because as long as we look at the condition, we cannot overcome it. As long as we are looking at the condition, we cannot overcome it. When we think about the condition, we tend to animate it with the life of our thought, and thereby we're perpetuating and magnifying it. So, when we stay focused on the condition, everything within us begins to tell the story about how bad it was. You know, it's even worse than when that happened 5 years ago. Or, oh, my friend had something, but mine is worse. Right, or I've got this illness and I'm going to die. My doctor says there's only a 40% chance to live, and am I going to be in the 60% or the 40%? And then I'm on Google looking up all the side effects of the drugs that the doctor has prescribed, and then I'm telling myself, even though it says this side effect, you know, is common, I must be common. I must be in the group that's going to have those 4 side effects, and that's even worse than the whatever I'm taking the pills for, right? We're constantly making up a story about the condition instead of just saying, oh, I've been diagnosed with this condition, and I know that my body is whole, perfect, and complete. This is temporary, and this medication is going to help me, and I'm going to take it, and I see myself as whole. I see myself as healthy. And I'm going to put my energy there. What does it look like? What does it feel like? What will I be doing when I'm healthy? And for me, you know, some of you will remember 2 years ago, I just got reminded because of Facebook memories. Don't you just love them? I just got reminded because 2 years ago, this time of the year, I was in physical therapy because I had hand surgery in May of 2023. And I'm looking at these photos with all the little occupational therapy, physical therapy tools, and immediately remembering what that was like. When I went to the doctor before the surgeon, one of the doctors said, well, you know, if your finger isn't straight in 4 weeks, that one, you're going to need surgery and it'll never work right again. You'll have arthritis and you'll never be able to make a fist. And I was like, no, no, you can say that, but no, that is not going to be my story. And so, of course, I never went back to that doctor. And I went to, who was a specialist, but I went back to my primary physician and said, okay, I need a referral because this is what's happening and this is what's going to happen. So she referred me to, excuse me, a different specialist who was a surgeon. And I said, okay, this is really routine to you. But let me explain to you. I see my hand being able to make a fist with no pain. I am sure that whatever you do is going to make it so that, no, I'm not going to have arthritis, and every time the weather changes, my hand's going to be hurting. This is not the goal. The goal is pain-free, full power, flexibility, and strength, and it is going to heal from the surgery in record time. And so he laughed at me. He laughed at me, right? Like, oh, you're entertaining. You know, you're my most fun patient today. And when he did the surgery, almost everything fell into place. Almost everything fell into place. But it was this. I turned away from the things that I didn't want to focus on what I do want. And if you have been around me for any length of time, you have heard me say, okay, that's what you don't want, but what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? What do you want? Describe it. Give me some energy around it. What do you want? And that's what Ernest Holmes is saying. Final thing before we go to your comments. Treatment is not willing things to happen. First sentence in the second paragraph. Treatment is providing within ourselves an avenue through which the things we want may happen. Because you're not negotiating with God. You are not bargaining with spirit. You are creating a belief and a commitment within yourself in order to create an avenue for the good to happen. So these two paragraphs are amazing. I'm curious about your examples, your questions, or anything that you may have done that resonates with either doing this or not doing this when you are working on or creating treatment. So, Ryan Brown, how can people participate?
Well, good morning to you, Dr. Tracy Brown, and hello to everybody here in the room. I'm your friendly guy in the sky for those online who are joining us all over the globe on Facebook and on Zoom. Yes. And so for everybody in the room, Carmen has the microphone. Just simply raise your hand and then we can pass it around. And we'd love to hear from your questions and comments and experiences like you had mentioned. For those who are in the Zoom room, you can hit the raise your hand icon and I can bring you into the room. It's located down under the reactions or the more tab. And all the folks who are on Facebook Live, make sure to stop in and say hello and where you're watching us from today. I see our friends back in the Philippines are here again with us, so good to have you in community. And make sure to put your questions and comments in the chat as well. And I'd like to say that I do keep those anonymous so we can continue to have a safe container for spiritual growth. So just polling here in the room, anybody have an experience they'd like to share, thought, question? Okay, we can come over here to Jerry first. And
be sure to say your name so everybody knows who you are and the people online can make a connection.
Hello, I'm Jerry, and well, as far as letting the condition go, well, what's happening is for years on end, I've worked a certain work schedule at a certain location, and so I adjusted so that that's very, very, very convenient. And now, in a short period of time, there are changes coming, like work location and schedule that would be not fit the convenience that I'm used to. And so I did use some of the techniques to not have the concerns or worry over it. Because if I don't, use the techniques, I'm very good at worrying over stuff over and over. But I do think that and I don't know if it has to do with being male or not, but I haven't wanted to commit on how to adjust, what to do instead. And when I don't do that, right, I think that leaves room for worry and concerns to come back, to start ruminating over the conditions again. So I can see the value of coming up with this is what I want and focus attention on that, because the mind is active and that won't leave room for the worry or whatever to come back.
The mind is active, right. The mind is always acting on what we've said or done a lot of, or the last most recent things that we've said or done a lot on. So it's not so much opening the door to worry and anxiety, except that that was the most dominant energy. And when we don't replace that with something else, then the brain is like, oh, well, last thing was worry and anxiety, and oh, he doesn't want to go there. He doesn't want to have to go that far. So, okay, let's keep that energy going. Yep. That's what's happening. But what I love about your own self-recognition, like, oh, I know I need to I need to line up with something different. And that I have the power to do that. And that is so much about what we teach in Science of Mind. Like, we have the responsibility and the authority to direct the energy that we spend on whatever is going on and or what it is that we want to create. So yes, I'm absolutely going to invite you, Jerry, to just pretend. I've never been to this location in terms of every day, and I'm gonna, I don't know what it'll be for you. I'm just playing, but I am going to meet some people I would not have otherwise met, or I am going to be exposed to restaurants or something that you like to do. Like for me, it would be like, I bet there's a roller skating rink over there that I haven't found yet. Or I know there's one over that way, but it's never been convenient. Ooh, so on Wednesdays, I'm gonna work late because that rink that's in Garland, it's only 20 minutes. So now once a week, right? Not make up a story that's not true, but to shift the energy where I'm looking forward to this, right, for some reason. And it could be as simple as, I'm really looking forward to this because I want to keep getting a paycheck. I mean, right? That's simple. But I want to keep getting a paycheck. I want to keep working for the same company and building my seniority. And this is a way to do it, right? It could be as practical as that. But it shifts the energy. And that's when Ernest Holmes says, turn away from the condition. Because as long as we look at it, we cannot overcome it. He is not saying ignore it or pretend it's not there. It's turn away from any negative energy or message that you are making up about it. Because that's what he says in the next sentence. We are the ones who are making up the story about what it means. You want to go online?
Yes, I do. I see Anita has her hand up. So Anita, do you want to unmute yourself and join our conversation?
Hey, good morning, Dr. Tracy.
Good morning.
So, I love the fact that you expressed how hard it is to turn away from the condition when we're physically or emotionally or mentally experiencing whatever's going on.
Yes.
Right? Because, let's admit it, we're all human, right? And it's when you're in the midst of things, it's hard to think about something else when that sharp stabbing pain is happening or whatever it may be, right?
Right.
But what I really love is that even when we as human beings are in the midst of that, excuse my dogs, I'm outside on the patio, is that we have the ability to pick up a phone and call or text a practitioner who has been trained to be able to understand what the condition is, but know what the spiritual principle is that's going to shift that for you. And so when you I as the human being cannot get past looking at that condition for myself, I can rely on somebody else to help coach me through it, one, but two, to be able to get to that spiritual principle and do that treatment work for me hold that consciousness for me, and until I can get to the point where I can do it for myself.
And so it is. Ooh, and I think people in our communities are often surprised to hear that that is true for us as practitioners, or for Dr. Petra as a minister, or right, that no, it's true for us too. If one of us is caught up and we know this is what needs to happen, but we're not able to, or we're not feeling like we're strongly, or maybe we're just not able, because the condition is overwhelming us in that moment, to call a practitioner, or call someone you've been in a class with who you know is grounded, or call a prayer partner or a member of your sangha who will know the truth for you and will not get caught up in the story. And Anita, thank you for that piece of, until you can get there yourself. Until you can get there yourself. And I love that plug for practitioners, because we're always, those of us who are licensed practitioners, we're always a text message or a phone call or an email away for a quick treatment, and to hear what's going on and to schedule more time if that's required. And I'm smiling because, Anita, as you were saying that, I was like, oh yeah, Wednesday, turn away from the condition. Tracy, you had a hard time turning away from that condition. Ooh, yes. And so it happens to all of us. I mean, and it was just a meeting, and someone gaslighted me, right? Someone said something that was like a personal attack instead of just being about talking about the issue or the concern. And I was like, you know, I was here, and then there was this part of me saying, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. That's not the truth. And I pulled myself back halfway. But I knew I had not completely come back to neutral, or to moving toward what do I want instead. And luckily, I was having dinner right after that meeting with a practitioner. It was like, okay, this is no coincidence. And literally in less than 10 minutes of me saying, okay, this is what happened an hour ago. This is how I'm feeling about it. I already know I want to have a relationship with this person. I already know that my story about what they said was not the truth of what's going to be forever. And they're like, is that a prayer request? Oh, yeah, that would be a good prayer request. I want healthy relationship. I want long-term relationship. I want to feel trust and harmony, right? Whatever, you know, it's like, this is what I want. I didn't change the condition. What happened, happened. And I began to focus on what I want. That person did a treatment in like 3 minutes, and literally I was fine, right? So definitely rely on others when you can't do it yourself. Anybody else? Virtual? Right here in the room?
Yes. My name is Carmen. I don't know if everybody knows like how I got into spirituality. I partially, well, let me just say, my sister died of breast cancer. And at the end of her journey, she started becoming more spiritual. And we talked about it. And so that kind of put a little seed. And then I went through a divorce, and actually pushed me this way. But make it short is that my sister, our mom passed away when I was 10 and she was 12. and how the experience affected all of us in different ways. But my sister passed away at 42 years old with breast cancer. My mom passed away at 42 years old with breast cancer. And my sister had just had a grandson. My mom just had a grandson, her first grandson. They had the identical stories. And when I became spiritual and it comes up, I had to tell myself that it's not my story, because it affected me, had me worried about that could happen to me as well. Seeing my mom, then my sister, and then I connected the dots, since I've been spiritual, and how that experience, that story, you could pick that story up and that could be your story. And it was identical. And so I had to tell myself, that is not my story. And so now, I'm glad you brought this up, because I'm actually working on myself right now. Well, I think we all are. But I'm at a point right now where stories that no longer serve me, I'm releasing them. The good ones, the ones that did well for me, that I just no longer need. And so that came up and let me know that when I have a situation where I feel like the story no longer serves me, I have to go back to that age I was and when I experienced it and talk to that. And then, because that happened when I was 14, not when I'm 40-something years old. So that's not who I am. So I have to go back. And so that was one of the things that came up, is I had to go back at that age. I have to keep going back when things come up to me and say, that story no longer serves me, and this is what I want. This is what's serving me now and what I need now. So I'm glad you brought that up, because it just lets me know that I'm in the right direction, and it makes more sense. It's like that's another piece of the puzzle that's adding to where I'm going, the direction. Make sense? That makes sense. But I'm done.
Yes. What a great reminder and example, Carmen, of one, the story or the circumstance happens, and we build a story around it. And when we're a child, often we make up our own story about our role in it, but we also are hearing the stories that the adults are making up around a situation or a circumstance, especially with family, but even not with family, with the collective story that the culture makes up, right? So imagine young children growing up today, they are experiencing a story that political polarity is the way it's supposed to be, right? They don't know any different, but that's what they're seeing. So there's a story that our entire culture and the world makes up, but the ones we often remember just as well or more are the ones we make up internally without all the information. When we're growing up, we can only see it from a child's perspective, and then we live with that story driving our behavior, right? Our beliefs drive our behavior leads us to habits and habitual thinking, habitual doing, and habitual being, and it's based on those habits then what experience we have in our life. So I love that. And Ernest Holmes, when he says turn away from the condition, he's reminding us that, the condition is real, or the condition is apparent, but the condition is not the absolute truth, capital T truth of spirit. And so we always get to transform our human experiences into something that is in alignment with the spiritual principles and values that we have. And it is an ongoing thing. It's not a place you arrive and then you sit there and gloat. I am better than you because I am spiritual and my life is wonderful. My life might be wonderful and I might be spiritual, but I'm not better than you because you can use everything I use. You can do everything that I have done and more. And in fact, there are times where I need to come to you for you to remind me that, oh, I could do that, or I could do more than that. So this chapter that is focused specifically on mental and spiritual treatment is a really, really, really good place for us to ground. And it's nice that it is not one of the shortest chapters. We still have many, many pages to go. We will probably be here for at least 5 or 6 more weeks, diving into mental and spiritual treatment. So, Ryan, I want to check with you. Do we have anyone online? Okay, we're going to have some announcements in a few minutes. Any questions or comments in the room? Please say your name.
Hi, this is Tina, and I love this. And what I want to say is over the years, doing it, it gets easier. Or even sometimes automatic. Yeah. Letting go, letting God. Doing the prayer treatment or having somebody do it for you or forgiving somebody. That's a part of letting go as well. And knowing that good comes from everything. And so you let it go, and whatever that crappy condition was, something good happens. And you look for that, you see it, and you feel blessed. So having those blessings come from negative crap somehow or another just makes it easier, makes life easier, and helps you feel blessed all the time.
Mm-hmm. And you just reminded me, too, without going into any details, as you said that, it's like, oh, I can remember a story a decade ago about what was happening. And it's when we have those experiences of, oh, I replaced it with something else. And the condition was real. The physical condition was real. It was happening. And I began to believe in the blueprint of perfect health, or the blueprint of perfect memory, or the blueprint of perfect sight. And then to look back and go, oh yeah, we completely reversed that. Oh yeah, I focused on what I wanted and it came forward. And here I am 10 years later or 12 years later, and I hadn't thought about that for years. But it felt all consuming at the time, that it was going to ruin my experience and my quality of life. But it didn't. And I don't even think about it anymore. When that happens, and it happens over and over and over again, then what Tina said about sometimes it's so automatic, you don't even think about it. You're just like, what? Oh, yeah. Yeah, my ankle hurts. Yeah, my ankle's fine. I'm going to wrap it up. I'm going to take these 2 Advil, and I'm going to elevate it, and I'm going to really pay attention for the next week. And a month from now, whatever weakness is there is going to be gone. Not because it's a miracle, but because I know I have all the resources I need for my ankle to be strong and for whatever inflammation is there to be healed. And I'm going to make food choices that reduce inflammation. And I'm going to I'm going to take care of my ankle, but not from a place of, oh, my ankle is hurting. I guess it's sprained. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's going to be so hard for me to skate next week. Oh, I don't know if I can walk around the park because it's going to hurt. Oh, I guess I'm getting older, and so things are going to just start breaking or falling apart. Right? I could tell myself that story, or I could tell myself the story of, I have all the resources I need, and every cell in my body knows what to do to work with every other cell in order to heal. And I'm going to support that by the choices I make. And 6 months from now, I have forgotten it even happened. That's the difference. And the more successes you have, the easier it is to believe it and for it to become an everyday way of being in the world. So think about that all week, and notice when you are paying attention to the condition instead of what you want. And we'll come back and talk about it a little bit more next week. But before we do that and before we close, I want to make sure you know a little bit about the highlights of what's going on right here at CSL Dallas.
Well, I guess it's my turn then. And thank you, Dr. Tracy Brown. This was really great discussion here today. And if you guys want to learn some fundamental principles, we have an amazing course that's coming up for you this Thursday. It's, I believe, 5 weeks or so. It's called Universal Spiritual Practices and Principles. It's going to be led by Dr. Petra, and it's going to be an amazing class that goes over the fundamentals of what the science of mind is all about. So I encourage you to get into class. It's also a great way to connect with others and go on the spiritual path with a community. And speaking of community, how many, just raise a hands, consider themselves a CSL Dallas member? All right. Well, for those who haven't, we do have an introduction online and in-person course. It's going to be called Membership Matters. It's September 7th. And it's a great way for you to get to know what CSL Dallas is all about, how we operate, what are the benefits of being a member here. Also, where do you fit? We're a volunteer-driven organization. So we use your gifts and talents, like the amazing, iconic Richard over here, right? Who's been doing his gift and his talents, and those in the room see his enormous cameras. So this is a place for you to find yourself here and really get to know others and call CSL Dallas your spiritual community. And shout out to Carmen here, who's going to be one of the facilitators along with Dr. Petra. So we are happy to have you guys. And you can sign up now by going to csldallas.org. So with that being said, that's all I've got. Tracy, any last closing words from you?
Just everybody have a great week, and if you are able to, whether virtually or on campus, join us for today's celebration service, which is all about how sound, the vibration of sound, can be used to heal emotional, mental, and physical misalignment, and how it can be used to reveal the truth of who you really are. We'll see you next week.